Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Radha and Mati, when are you ready, you can start, Mati.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna to all dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27. Attacked by Chandavega on the city of the king Punarjana, the character of Kalakanya. Text 1. The great sage Narada continued, My dear king, after bewildering her husband in the different ways and bringing him under her control, the wife of King uh, Purarjana gave him all the satisfactions and enjoyed the sex life with him. Text 2. The queen took her bath and dressed herself nicely with all the auspicious garments and ornaments. After taking food and becoming completely satisfied, she returned to the king. Upon seeing her beautiful, decorated, attractive face, the king welcomed her with all the devotion. Text 3. Queen Puranjani embraced the king, and the king also responded by embracing her shoulders. In this way, in a solitary place, they enjoyed joking words. Thus, King Puranjana became very much captivated by his beautiful wife and deviated from his good sense. He forgot that the passing of days and nights meant that his span of life was being reduced without profit. Text 4. In this way, increasingly overwhelmed by illusion, King Puranjana, although advanced in consciousness, remained always lying down with his head on the pillow of his wife's arms. In this way, he considered woman to be his ultimate life and soul, becoming thus overwhelmed by the mode of ignorance. He could not understand the meaning of the self realization, whether regarding his own self or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 5. My dear King, Prachina Prishta. In this way, King Punanjana, with his heart full of lust and sinful reaction, began to enjoy sex with his wife, and this way his new life and youth expired in half a moment. Text 6. The great sage Narada then addressed King Prachina Brishta, O one whose lifespan is great, Virat. In this way, King Puranjana begot 1,100 sons within the womb of his wife. Punanjani, however, in this business, he passed away half of his lifespan. Text 7. O Prajapati King, Prachina Prishta. In this way, King Puranjana also begot 110 daughters. All of these were equally glorified like the father and mother. Their behavior was gentle, and they possessed magnanimity and other good qualities. Text 8. After this, King Punanjana, king of Prachala country, in order to increase the descendants of his parental family, married his sons with qualified wives and married his daughters with qualified husbands. Text 9. Of these many sons, each produced hundreds and hundreds of grandsons. In this way, the whole city of the Prashala became overcrowded by these sons and grandsons of King Puranjana. Text 10. These sons and grandsons were virtually plunders of the king Puranjana's riches, including his home, treasury, servants, secretaries, and all other paraphernalia. Puranjana's attachments of these things were very deep rooted. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, whenever Gopijana Primati, you are ready, you can start, Mataji.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much, Radharani Mataji, for reading today's translations. Let's start with brief prayers. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pashyatade Shatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Our glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Today we are doing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 27, from text 1 to text 10. And we have been hearing from devotees about how Narada Muni has been compassionate upon Prachina Barhi, because Prachina Barhi came in the dynasty of Pridhuma. I'm sorry. He came in the dynasty of Dhruva Maharaj. And because he's doing so many fruitive activities, Narada Muni wants to save Prachina Barhi from doing pious and impious activities. And he came and he started narrating allegorical story, that is imaginary story. Gopijana himself, it is a conditioned living being. And also that is the life of Prachina Barhi himself, and also the life of all conditioned beings. And we have been hearing how he neglected his wife and he went for hunting. Hunting is compared with the conditioned being performing many sinful activities. And he ignored his wife, that is, he ignored the spiritual intelligence, and he inclined towards sinful activities. So he got tired in the forest and he came back home, and he has seen that his wife is neglected. He came to his good consciousness, and now there are so many verses in the previous chapter which has spiritual significance, like taking bath means performing some atonements for his sinful activities. Eating suitable food means he has given up meat, wine. So there are spiritual significance insights for each of those verses. We have seen them yesterday. And now he took bath, he ate nice food, and then he searched for his wife, Puranjani. And now he came to good consciousness in his family life. So Prabhupada writes that household life is better than sinful life, that is devoid of responsibilities. And in the household life, again, if husband becomes so much attached to his wife, then what happens? The material life becomes prominent. So even though at one level sinful life is, the household life is better than sinful life, but again in household life, one should not be so much attached to the family duties. Why? Because it becomes more and more material bondage. And Prabhupada writes very beautifully, then how should one act in the family life, right? So if a husband and wife combine together in Krishna consciousness and live together peacefully, then that is very nice. Prabhupada says that. And Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anasaktesya Vishayan from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. That means that without being attached by sex, the husband and wife, they can live together for the advancement of spiritual life. So husband should engage in the devotion service and wife should be faithful and religious according to Vedic injunctions. Then such a combination is very good. But whereas if husband is too much attracted to his wife, then what happens? The position becomes dangerous. Even though what happens is when man performs devotional activities, devotional service to the Lord, he raised himself to the platform of goodness, right? So when the husband is in a good situation, then the woman also gets benefited. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness in the family life. So that way, the intelligence of man and woman, they work nicely together and progress march towards spiritual realization. That's how the family life should be led in Krishna consciousness. That's a beautiful insight, spiritual thoughts are given by Srila Prabhupada here. And text 2, now the queen, she also took bath and she dressed herself and she decorated herself with nice garments and ornaments. And she approached king. Text 3. So like that, Puranjana has enjoyed with his wife Puranjani, and he forgot the passing of days and nights, which are meant for the self-realization, but he's spending the time without any profit. And his lifespan is also getting reduced. He's just passing the days and nights. And purport, Prabhupada writes the importance of the time and how one should utilize the time very nicely in the human form of life. So many nice points Prabhupada writes. So generally, the householder who is in ignorance, they don't take the time very seriously. And they just take it as casually. The days comes, nights come, and we are passing the time. But there is such ignorance that they don't understand for each sunrise, they're getting one day close to death. And their lifespan is also being reduced. For each moment to moment, our lifespan is being reduced, right? And they're forgetting that duty of human life. And their consciousness becomes very degraded. That is called apakrista chetana. That is very degraded consciousness. But how the human consciousness should be used for elevation to Krishna consciousness. So for those who are attached to wife, for those who are attached to wine, all simple activities, then they will not take Krishna consciousness very seriously. We see that practically also. When you try to teach them the knowledge of Krishna and Bhagavad Gita, they don't incline to take that because they're too much attached to the material indulgence. And what is the greatest loss in everyone's life is just passing the time without understanding Krishna. We know that human life is very rare and bhakti is very rare. But for those who are spending the time without understanding Krishna, that is the greatest loss. That's why every moment should be utilized very nicely, wisely. Thereby we can increase devotion service to the Lord. So whatever the activities that we perform without devotion service to the Supreme Lord, what happens? That is simply waste of time. Sramayevahi kevalam. So just becoming dutiful, it is not sufficient. We don't derive any profit there. So we need to perform devotion service to Supreme Lord. Here Prabhupada is quoting the verse, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.8. Dharmasya dharmahas vanushtitha pumsam vishvaksenu kadasuyaha notpadayet itirati sremayevahi kevalam. So however the person is dutiful, but without rendering service unto Vishvaksena, then what happens? Sremayevahi kevalam. That is useless labor. So it's very important to utilize the time, how we are using, we need to contemplate and understand, is there any, am I wasting my time in any of these activities? How can I utilize that So it's very important to contemplate every day. And text 4. So in this way, Puranjana considered his queen Puranjani as his ultimate life and soul. And he became overwhelmed with ignorance. Because of that, he could not understand the meaning of self-realization. So what is self-realization? So Prabhupada here explains about self-realization in detail. So he forgot to understand who am I and about Bhagavan. Because he's in ignorance. And purport, Prabhupada writes so many profound statements. Human life is meant for self-realization. So first of all, one has to understand that I'm not this body. I'm soul, right? So once that understand establishes, then one has to realize the super soul, Paramatma, and Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaneti, Satyate. And but for those who are attached to men, who are attached to so many material sense gratification, their knowledge is covered. They'll not be able to understand that we are soul, we are not this body. So and we see that how Krishna has given that knowledge, Atma Gnan, in Bhagavad Gita. And he has given the knowledge about Paramatma also. And he has given the knowledge about Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one who understand about ourselves and our relationship with Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that means they are situated in self-realization. For those who are attached, Prabhupada writes, quoting verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, that Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes Tamo Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. So one who associates with Mahatmas, Mahat Sevam, then what happens there? Path of liberation is open, Dwaram Ahur. But whereas one who is attached to women or one who are attached to the persons who are attached to women, then it becomes darkest region of hellish life, Tamodvaram. And because Puranjana is attached to his wife for sense indulgence, then his whole consciousness was covered, right? So like that in the modern world also, we see that people are too much covered by these things. So when you go and teach about self-realization, they will not be understand because they're too much indulged, right? The first step of self-realization is to know oneself as the spirit soul, apart from the body. That is the first step of realization. In the second stage of realization is, self-realization is that I'm a soul and I always have relationship with Supreme Lord. I'm part and parcel of Krishna, right? So mamai vamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasashtiyani indriyani prakrtisthani karshati mamai vamso jiva loke. So all Krishna is saying that all the living beings are part and parcel, and we are servants of Krishna. We are part and parcels of Krishna. So one who understands, one who realizes that knowledge, then those are self-realized souls. But for those who are attached to women and all these sensuality pleasure, then they are deprived of this self-realization. Text 5. And now Puranjana, his heart is full of lust and sinful reactions. So he began to enjoy with his wife, and his youth has expired in just half a moment, because he's just passing the days and nights, and all his youth also expired in just a moment, half a moment. So here Prabhupada writes in the purport, Govindadas Thakur Bhajan, Edanayavana Putra Parijana Iteki Ache Paratitire Kamaladala Jala Jivana Tanamala. So here Govindadasa is saying that there is no bliss in the enjoyment of youthful life. Because we see that youth persons, they they become inclined towards sense objects, towards form, taste, smell, touch, and sound. So the modern scientific methods, they always encourage the enjoyment of these five senses only. Whatever the advancements that we see in civilization, it is to gratify the senses more and more, by which the result is to entangle more and more in this material existence and take the sufferings. Prabhupada writes that the significance of Kama Kalsmala Chetasa, that is, Puranjana consciousness is polluted by lusty desires and sinful activities. Kama Kasmala. So for such people, what happens when their consciousness is degraded to enjoy their life with so many lusty desires as well as performing sinful activities, then the youth expired in just half a moment. And so it went so quickly. So when one does, Prabhupada writes here, the unrestricted sense enjoyment, then it leads to a sinful life. So when one leads to sinful life, what happens? He does so many sinful activities and his consciousness is covered because of those sinful activities. So then what is the solution? Because our heart is full of desires, material, unwanted desires, and indulging in so many sensual enjoyment and so many sinful activities. So the solution is given that in order to change our consciousness from Kasmala, sinful consciousness, to Krishna consciousness, Krishna is supremely pure. So Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. Krishna is supremely pure. And when we change our material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, then we become purified. And the process given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing the mirror of the heart. So by Krishna, by Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, when we do Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, it is chanting the holy names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then our material consciousness become pure because we are directly associating with supremely pure Krishna consciousness. That's so beautiful. In text 6, so this way, even though the lifespan of Prachina Barhi, the lifespan of Puranjana, it is very long. But he has spent all his youth in just a moment by passing days and nights by enjoying with his queen Puranjani. That represents Puranjani represents intelligence, right? Material intelligence, and that way he got 1100 sons within the womb of his wife Puranjani. So that's a huge number of children. And text 7, he also got 110 daughters. So they are equally glorified like father and mother. And their behavior was gentle and they possessed very good qualities. The purport writes, Srila Prabhupada writes, the importance of performing the rules and regulations of the scriptures. Then the children are begotten from parents, they're also as good as father and mother because they're following the scripture rules and regulations. Whereas for those just beget the children without considering scriptural regulations, then they become Varna Sankara. That is, they're irresponsible. That population is irresponsible to the family, community, and even to themselves. So how can it be checked? Prabhupada writes that by observing the reformatory method called Garbhadana Samskara, then the child begetting religious ceremony. In this way, King Puranjana, he has got very nice kids, not Varnashankara kids, because of which they are very good, well-behaved children. Text 8. So now Puranjana, who is the king of Panchala, so he wanted to increase his parental family. So he got his sons married with qualified wives and his daughters with qualified husbands. And purport Prabhupada writes, so it's very important that everyone in the Vedic system, everyone should marry. So one has to accept a wife because wife produces children, and then children, what they do? They offer foodstuff and funeral ceremonies to the forefathers. That is very important ceremony. And here, so the oblations in the name of Lord Vishnu is called Pindodaka. So the oblation should be given to forefather as a prasad after one offers bhoga to Lord Vishnu and give the prasad to forefathers. They'll be very happy wherever they are, and they're better situated devotional service also because it is offered to Vishnu before. And it is a duty of father and mother to arrange the marriage of their sons and daughters. It is parents' duty. Otherwise, they just go to the society and they mingle with opposite sex without any marriage, right? So it is very important to have those marriage ceremonies performed for their young children. So text 9. So those sons, Puranjana sons, they got married and also produced hundreds and hundreds of grandsons. In this way, the whole city of Panchala became overcrowded by the sons and grandsons of King Puranjana. And there is again the representations, because it is allegorical story, this imaginary story, we need to be aware of what is the significance of these verses and inner meanings. There are different layers of understandings. Here, Panchala represents the five. We must remember that Puranjana is the living entity and Panchala is his body, right? And here Kshetra, Kshetragna is highlighted by Srimad Prabhupada, how the body is the field of activity. And there are two constituents who knows about the body. That is the soul himself and Supreme Lord. And further, yeah, the allegorical representation of sons and grandsons represents the pious and impious activities of the conditioned living being. So we perform so many activities by which what happens? There are reactions. Whether it can be pious reactions or impious reactions because of our past activities. So that represents sons and grandsons. And Sri Narottam Das Thakur says that so fruitive activities and mental speculations are simply cups of poison. Whoever drinks of them, thinking them to be nectar, they must struggle very hard, life after life, by taking different bodies. And yeah, so he produced so many actions and reactions in hundreds and thousands of members. So in this way, he remains in this material world simply for the purpose of sense gratification. And Prabhupada continued to write that yeah, the grandchildren also marry, and parents they produce children, and their children produce grandchildren, and then great grandchildren. So in this way, entire earth becomes very populated, very overpopulated, right? So when the time comes for the annihilation, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhutva Bhutva Pralayate. So repeated creation and repeated annihilation because of this pious and impious activities. And due to lack of Krishna consciousness, all this creation and annihilation is going on under the name of human civilization. So for those who develop Krishna consciousness, and we don't have to be part of this repeated creation and annihilation again and again. So that's very nice statement. And last verse for today, 10th verse. Here, so what happened? These sons and grandsons, they were plunderers of King Puranjana's riches, including his home, treasuries, servants, secretaries, and all other paraphernalia. So Puranjana attachment for these things was very deep-rooted. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes about the plunderers of wealth is very significant. So when one has their sons and grandsons, so what they do, they enjoy the accumulated wealth, right? And there are many celebrated businessmen and industrialists who produce great wealth, and they're praised by public, but their money is plundered by their sons and grandsons. And Prabhupada gives one example, a real example about how he has seen one industrialist, and he was materially opulent with all his riches, wives, but his money was not secure. It was taken by his sons and daughters, and but they don't. Here, Shastra says such karmis are called mudas. They work very hard. They're very foolish people. They work hard, accumulate money, and they become satisfied when that money is plundered by their sons and grandsons. So such karmis, such mudas, they don't want to return the wealth to its actual owner. His actual owner, Krishna. So Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam Sarva Lokam Maheshwaram. Everything belongs to him. He's Lakshmi Pati. But those for those who are materialistically having opulences, they feel satisfied. Okay, my sons are using, my grandsons are using, but they don't care to use that wealth for Krishna service. And who is the proprietor of the wealth? He is the actual enjoyer, right? So that's very foolish. And Prabhupada goes on about saying how the demonic persons think from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So what they think? So whatever, so much wealth I have today, and I will gain more and more by doing so many schemes, and I will increase it in the future. And he is my, so the demonic people always think that. So how can I increase more and more? How can I enjoy more and more? How can I give it to my sons and grandkids, right? So without spending that for any spiritual advancement, right? So it is this way people engage in various laborious activities, and their attachment for body, home, family, nation, and community becomes more and more deep-rooted. So they personally sense gratify, and also they expand their sense gratification to their family members. So they feel satisfied when the family members plunder their wealth. And just in a moment, when the death comes, everything will be vanquished. So we are not related to this body, not related to this wealth, riches, family members. So what that comes to us, along with us, is the spiritual piety. Whatever spiritual piety that we have done in this life, that only get carried. Everything else will be vanquished in just a moment. Those are the verses for today. Thank you so much for your association and time. We can pass here. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for the wonderful class. Hare Krishna, Mataji.